Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second AgTech Exchange organized by the AMEA Working Group on Agricultural Technologies, the AMEA Ag-Tech Working Group. We're very happy to have today here Alexander from Yielder. But before I pass on the mic for the presentation, I'd just like to quickly introduce myself. I'm Felipe Di Matteo, Program Officer at AMEA, and we frequently organize these AgTech exchanges with different AgTech service providers, so we can share what's out there with you as part of the activities of our working group on AgTech. So welcome, everyone. We'll now pass on the mic to Alexander and start this presentation. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Felipe. I think it's an honor to be here. It's really nice, and I think AMEA is doing fantastic work. So I like to join, commit, or share with all the people here. I will do a short presentation on Yielder, what Yielder is, what we do, and what we aim to do. So my name is Alexander Valaton. I am originally Dutch, and I'm living in Kenya already for quite some time, 15, 17 years, like that. And in 2018, we set up a company called Yielder, and Yielder aims to bridge the knowledge gap between, say, academic knowledge and what farmers on the ground need. And we do that mainly in a digital way, but over time we have changed our methods a little bit. Can you put the next slide, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm having troubles. Let me try again. No, yes.
Yes. So if you look at the situation in Africa or in East Africa, there is a few very, very big challenges. In the first place, the population is going to grow very fast. Then the second bullet is an 80% yield gap, and probably that needs a little bit of an explanation. Yield gap is actually what could have been yielded on an acre, and Kenya is, well, probably at 30–40% of that. So it can be farmed much more intensively, and which is needed to feed that growing population. Now, another point that we are tackling or that we are working with is youth unemployment. There's a lot of people coming, and the percentage of youth here in Africa is very high, but there's not enough jobs for all these people, and a lot of young people don't really like to be employed in agriculture because agriculture still has quite a negative reputation. It's like standing in the blazing sun, getting your hands dirty, and probably through the market system as well. Most of the risk, or actually all the risk in agriculture, is with the farmers and not with the value chain, while the farmers don't really make enough money. Then another point is that the production to market alignment. So farmers are producing regardless what the market needs. So the market is asking for specific products, and farmers are not making that, mainly because of tradition, because they're not used to do things like that, and because of the risk. Low quality of food produced, that's another, well, that's evident. Low traceability of food, that is, of course, in the Western world, it is very high on the agenda to find out where does my lettuce come from, where does my tomato come from. In coffee business, it's getting more and more normal, but here it's not really there yet. And that also means that farmers don't get a reward if they do make better quality. So all the tomatoes are being thrown on one big pile, sold in the market, and farmers cannot get that credit, actually, for making better quality. The post-harvest losses, well, it's evident if you don't produce according to the demands of the market, and you produce tomatoes when it's tomato season, then everybody is selling tomatoes, and all the tomatoes are rotting in the field or are not being sold in the markets. Now, climate change, of course, that's a huge thing coming up. It's very evident here. So there's no way to deny that there's climate change is coming, but farmers don't know how they can react to it. Sustainable farming, mainly organic farming or climate smart farming, it's coming, but it's not there yet. And especially the bigger farms, they don't really do that. And that has to do with, well, it's difficult to change the habits. Then we come to the point of data. Of course, all the NGOs, all the companies, they want data, but everybody is harvesting in a different way. Everybody is trying to get it in a different way. If a farmer has to fill out those data himself or herself with literally low literacy rate in general and very low digital literacy rate, then you know that these data are not going to be very clean. And the low integration of digital services, that means that there is a lot of organizations offering digital services, but only a few, especially smallholder farmers, know how to use that. Scattered services means that actually all the NGOs, all the information providers, research centers, universities and whatever, they have their own channel. They distribute their information in their own way. And well, you can't really expect a farmer to be able to know what is more right than the other one. And then the short term, I think it says it all. People need to get money now from the harvest that they've from the crops that they've planted a few months ago. Then there's no time for a good investment, and especially because that risk is all with the farmer, you cannot blame the farmer to think that way, and especially because the market is very unreliable. Can we go to the next slide, please? So when Yielder came to the market, of course, we cannot solve all the problems and we cannot address them all, but it's mainly about that knowledge gap, it's education gap. If you look at the economic balance of a farmer, 85% of the farmers are technically bankrupt. That means that if they would quantify their own hours, then they can better work in a factory than work on the land. I've been talking about the low integration of the educated youth. Now that's a huge problem that we have high on our agenda. The literacy levels and the awareness of the latest techniques, that is, of course, where the youth has to come in, because they've been in agriculture academies or universities. They have access to that knowledge, but they can't implement it. Then the reliable, relevant, and regionalized information, that is one of the 3 R's that we always use. That is super important. Farmers don't know what is reliable. They do know what is relevant, but still they get a lot of information about mango farming while they are doing pigs. So it doesn't really make sense. And a regionalized information in a country like Kenya, there's desert, there's coastal area, there's mountains, there's some very fertile areas around here, around Nairobi. But here in Nairobi, they don't need information about what is happening at the coast. That's 500 kilometers away. The situation there is completely different. So we shouldn't bother them with that information. We should have information for where the farmer is. And the unreliable and incomplete data, that is something that I will talk about later. Now, Yielder works in a quite easy way. We have an app, the guy in the picture is showing that, and in that app is a learning environment. We work for clients. So our clients are NGOs, is research centers like CJAR and all the partners under CJAR. We work a bit with universities, and we have commercial clients as well. For these clients, we develop trainings. These trainings, they have a lot of multimedia, so videos, games, cartoons, and quizzes and all those kind of things that make it more interesting. We train trainers, and these trainers go with these trainings into the field and train farmers. That is our business model. Now, this comes down to 3 big pillars that I will talk about. First, training. Secondly, trainers. And third, data. That is the 3 pillars that Yielder is based on. Now, so the last point, climate smart and sustainable farming practices. We think that it is very important. We think that the future is there, and it will make, well, it's better for the planet, it's better for the health of the farmer, it's better for the health of the consumer, it's better everywhere, although farming is a bit more complicated, more difficult, slightly more risky if you don't rely on fertilizers and pesticides. Next one, please. So trainings, that is pillar 1. What trainings? We have this kind of learning tree. And the learning tree consists of, you come in from the STEM, and in the STEM is trainings that every entrepreneur should know. So it's digital literacy, financial literacy, entrepreneurship. How do you set up your business? Farming is a business. A lot of people probably don't know that really, but it's the way it is. Then from there, we go to things that every farmer should know. That is like soil management, sustainable farming, ecological thinking, those kind of things. And from there, we go to the branches of the tree. In those branches, you can see specific crop-specific and animal-specific knowledge. Just like, well, at this moment, we're developing trainings for fruit farmers at the coast. We are developing trainings for organic chicken farming, bee keeping, bee farming. And so slowly we are building, no, actually not so slowly, steadily we're building that, all the branches of the trees. What is very important for us is demand driven. If there's no market, we're not going to make a training. Clients ask us, clients as NGOs and companies and whatever, they ask us to make trainings. We chop that up in smaller parts in modules. Then we add the multimedias. And what is very important is not the certificates and incentives. So farmers need to know why they're going to do this training. And of course, in the end, it is to have a better farm. But in the short term, it is to have a nice certificate that they can hang on the wall, and an incentive like inputs, seeds, and all those kind of things that they can immediately plant without taking a big risk. Unlike many NGOs, we don't pay farmers for trainings. We don't compensate them for transportation. We may give them a cup of tea in the training, but that is really depending on the trainer as well. Next slide, please. So the digital way is that we support our trainers digitally. Sophia or our coaches are going into the field to train trainers. These trainers go into the field to train farmers. We have a strong focus on women and youth. We believe that job creation for youth is essential. And the advantage for us is that many of these youth are already digital savvy. And women, the advantage of women is that they learn faster and are more easy to put their learnings in practice rather than well, I always say it kind of discriminatory, but a 60-year-old landowner. I can say it now because I'm reaching that age as well. For us, it's very important to make the language very accessible. So the trainers can also help to change the English trainings into local languages, into vernacular. Again, climate smart. Then the blended multimedia learning, that is making it very attractive. That is the reason why we put all those videos and games, etc. So both trainers and trainees really like these videos. They really like the games that we are developing. They really like the hands-on practices that we do. So if we are talking about compost, we try to convince the trainers to make a compost with the trainees. So it's very hands-on. And the other thing that is very important is that the digital extension service, so the trainers, harvest data for us. If the trainers are doing that, then the data are much more clean than if a farmer does it. Next one, please. So who are these trainees? First, we have a network of what we call yielder ambassadors. That's people that came to us, or we have been asking for them to register to become a trainer. Then there's the extension people of our clients. So they have been trained to be trainer already. They have a network in the field, etc. We try to convince our clients, our partners, that these extension guys are also going to work for others. So maybe they work for SNV, for example, or GIZ, or name an organization, but they can also harvest data for other parties. So these guys can make a bit more money and become more active. And then lastly, that's what we call the DES network, Digital Extension Service Network. That's young guys educated in agriculture, being in the field, and they have a network of farmers. Now that's where we're going to go to. That's what we want to grow, because that should be a standalone organization that has, that can actually generate its own money, and we can of course support it and we can sell it for them. Our focus, young tech-savvy agripreneurs, and we give them basic training on how to train, basic training on digital tools. We give them training on the content. We pay them for each training day, but including transport and including their communication bundles. And what's happening now is that these guys are in the field, they have access to our trainings, and they get groups of farmers together. They ask a little bit of money from the farmers to be trained as well. And that is a big change that is taking place now, because farmers do pay for the training. So we don't pay the farmers. Farmers want to put some money in there. And that is very remarkable. Yes, please, next. Does digital work? This is a very interesting part, because I've been doing quite some presentations about this. Digital is a tool, not a goal. A lot of NGOs still think like, oh, digitalization of farmers in Africa, that is the purpose. No, that's not the purpose. It's only creating a leeway to get access to these farmers. Digital illiteracy, that is, I think, the big point. So we developed one training about digital literacy for farmers. Mobile money, everybody has that. And they know how to do that because it is accepted and it's safe. The digital confusion is one of the things that we wanted to talk about. Digital confusion is very much, at this moment, there's 360 apps, or somebody else said 450 apps, specifically for agriculture in East Africa. Now, how can we expect a farmer to know which one he has to choose or she has to choose? That is a big complication. Then the digital confusion is also that they don't know how to trust it. And trust is a very, very big thing. And the digital fear that comes with that, including that they cannot see in advance what the costs will be of working with a specific app, working with a specific kind of information. And more there is this whole item about privacy. Farmers don't know what kind of information we are harvesting from them directly from the phone. They have to register again, they have to make a password again, and they have to agree about giving consent to share something, but what are they sharing? Now, a lot of people are talking about the digital divide, and we in Yielder, we believe that the digital divide is not specifically between young and old, or urban and upcountry, or big farm, small farm, but it is very much about being switched on or switched off. And that is a I think, the big change that is taking place. I was visiting a farmer. He was like 62, and he was completely tech savvy, and he knew exactly what to do. And young guys who said like, I don't have the money, I don't have the bundles, I don't have the this or that. If they really want to, they can, and it's available there. Next one, please. For you, the opportunity is that's quite obvious. If we can build that communication bridge between organizations and people in the field, including that training element, then I think we do a good job. And then we can then we can contribute to the the whole what is it, hemisphere that everybody in this field is working in. Now, I think personally, I think the planet is and sustainable farming is super important, especially if it's about eating habits. I think we want to do something about nutritious food quite soon. Population growth, well, that's clear. The clustering of NGO services and trainings, that is going to be the next challenge, because it also has to deal with data sharing, data management, etc. And then creating jobs for educated youth. Please, next one. Partnerships. That is going to be that is, for us, is very important. We have to work with clients, but everybody's working in projects. Projects are limiting everything, unless, of course, the project is taking a few years, and not 2 or 3 years, but really like long. The other thing is that it is very important to select trainable farmers. Now, NGOs, organizations say you have to train 10,000, 20,000 people, regardless what they're going to do with the learnings. If we can select farmers who are actually really interested, who are ready to change, who have access to land, etc., all those criteria, then the impact is going to grow very much, and the cost for the NGO is going down. We have to take them the farmers by the hand in the long term. That is not 2 or 3 years, but it's really like long. And there you have to build a cluster of partners around a farmer who can give a shared package, so we can really help him or her. Data ownership. This is very important. All the partners that we are working with, they all have a database of farmers. They all have spent a lot of money in building the database. I really think that if we share those databases, everybody can benefit from that. The data, however, should be owned by a farmer. The farmer is the one who's responsible that his data are clean, and we can help him or her, but the ownership should be there. And he or she can decide with whom what is going to be shared. The data analysis, however, that is us. That is on the service providers. In order to be able to do that, we have to standardize data. So if GIZ is harvesting data in a very different way than Mercy Corps is doing that, then of course it's not going to work. We have to take care that the data are clean and remain clean. We can do that through our DES network. So our digital extension services, they can harvest data, and is much more clean than if a farmer does it himself or herself. And to keep it clean, that is something that has never been budgeted anywhere, but it's very important to keep on updating the data, keep on checking if somebody didn't change the phone number. Here you can get loans on a phone, and if you get a 10,000 shilling, which is like $80 loan, then it's much cheaper to throw away your SIM card and get another one in, so you're untraceable, than paying back that loan. So a lot of people change phone numbers often. So then you get the unbiased data analysis that is, I think, is kind of clear. Data sharing from the root means that all the way at the beginning we have to ask consent from the farmers to share data. If you ask it afterwards, then it's going to be very complicated. And clustering services, well, I talked about that before. I think service providers, NGOs, organizations, or whatever, they have to work together, long-term projects, and, well, of course, all sharing the same data sets. Next one, please. I think we can rush through those. Competition, there's not so much competition, but you can, there's people who do trainings, there's not so many people who do blended learning trainings. There's some blended learning in other areas like healthcare. If you combine it with the SMS and IVR, so it's voice, then you reach a much bigger market, but the impact is lower. And we really like to work together with other service providers. We don't see them as competitors, we see them as partners. We want to work together with them. Yep. Next one again. I think I explained about our business model. We make money because clients hire us. That is actually the basic thing. They hire us to develop trainings, to train trainers, and to roll out the trainings in the field, and then data collection, data analysis, and of course reporting. That is what we, if that goes all well, then we smile to the bank. Next one, please. We have, since 2018-17, 80,000 registered farmers in our yielder database. We have trained 180,000. So there's a difference because in the database it's only farmers with a smartphone. The farmers trained can also have a feature phone. Then we have a database of knowledge, what we call Yielderpedia, and where we put knowledge, we translate knowledge into usable information for farmers. We are working with about 45 NGOs and companies to share their information. So that is the information that's in our database. For the trainings, we have about 15 clients, and as recurring clients. And that recurring is, of course, very important for us because then we can build a relationship. We've developed 14 different trainings, and this was January, so now I think we're at 20 or something. We are active in Kenya, Rwanda. In Rwanda, we have an affiliate office. In Uganda, we are doing some trainings there, and we're looking for partners to set up an office there. And we really like to go to Ethiopia, but we have to change the language of everything. And so there's a bit of a challenge there. And even there, officially we're a media company. Yeah? And in Ethiopia, it's very difficult to get a license for as a media company. Yes, next one, please. So Dalberg is one of our founding partners. They did a research, and I think the figures are quite nice. So 78% of the farmers were using the learned techniques 6 months after the training. So that means we have been training, 6 months later we did the survey, and they were using that knowledge. 42% had a better understanding of the weaknesses on their farm. So that is, a lot of people think that they're doing very well, and they're doing the optimum. After the training, they understand that some things can improve. It doesn't mean that they do improve it right away, but they know that there's a weakness there. On the other hand, 63% say that they're more confident in decision making. So they know that they changed, they know they want to do something else, and they were just doing something maybe before or based on the conversation they had in the bar with their peers or in church. Now they are more confident. Record keeping is of course very important because that is a gateway to getting loans. So that record keeping is important. 92% of the trainees wanted more trainings. So, and we know what kind of trainings they like now. And the trainers, of course, they want to do more because they get paid for it. And well, it's not only the money, it's also their status in the communities. It's also that they become the access point for more services than only the yielder trainings. This is what it looks like. I think we will share the website as well, so you can see everything there. And well, this is the team. We have a very small team, a very strong team. The growth potential. Oh, sorry. No, that's fine. The growth potential. More paying clients, so more projects per client. Well, we are very hardworking to get more trainers, and we're reaching out to 10,000 of them now, but that can be more. If you calculate that each trainer has a network of about 300 to 400 farmers around him, and that there is, I think there's, I don't know exactly, but there's like 25 million farmers here in Kenya, and you know how many of those trainers we would need. Then the trainers, that's the desk guys, we want to get more activities for them so they can become more active, more rich, etc. More trainings per training, that is evident. We have to grow the number of trainings in our portfolio, and we have to see if we can build a system where a farmer can pay us 50 to 100 bob and get access to a training and then do the training. The strategic partnerships, that's what I talked about before, clustering of services, etc. Long-term projects, that's what I said before as well. We now do a lot of projects that are 2 or 3 years, but it should be much longer. You have to take farmers by the hand and really lead them. And of course, we can do other countries in Africa. We are focusing on Africa. So that's it. I love this picture. You see a trainer and a funny trainee. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. It's time for I rushed through it. Some things were hopefully not clear. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about in the Q&A.
Alex, I know this was a great presentation. Thank you for this. And yes, no, indeed, there are many questions already in the chat, so I think we'll have some interesting discussions for the Q&A. I noticed some of the questions were answered during your presentation, so I think that's your questions have been answered. So moving into the questions of Peter, I think, Peter, since you added so many questions, would you like to take up the mic and select which questions you would like tackle first?
Yeah, if I go through these questions, again, there's a lot of people who joined later. Welcome, welcome. Who pays for the training that you're giving to the farmers? Well, it's mainly the NGOs. So Desta is asking, it's NGOs, companies, etc. So they pay for it. Although we are developing a system where the farmers can pay themselves. How's the digital literacy of farmers? Well, it's quite low. And we have to, I have to stipulate that we, or NGOs, really like to work with the smallholders. And smallholders, that is up to 4 or 5 acres or something. So it's always difficult to say what the criteria is. When is somebody not a smallholder anymore? But there, the digital literacy is not very high. Although when people are, if they're landowner, the landowner is always the one who's making the decision. So actually, he's the ideal trainee. Quite often, however, there are others being trained. So a farm help or the wife of a farmer or somebody like that. And then the digital literacy levels are varying there. If you go to the mid-sized farmers, then of course the digital literacy level is much higher. There's more money going around. They're less afraid of the bundles, etc. And do we only work with digital literacy, illiterate farmers? No, because we use the trainer model, we can actually train everyone. The trainer, however, he or she has to be kind of digital savvy. Okay, Peter is asking, what percentage of your training is direct to the farmers as compared to that offered through trainers? That percentage until now is quite low. I think it's about 7-8%, mainly because we have very much been focusing on the trainer and coaches system. So we have not been marketing our trainings yet. We will do that more, and also because the monetizing system there is a little bit shaky. But now we are doing, at this moment, moment, we're doing a training for GIZ, and in that training it said like 10% of the trainees have to come directly, remotely to our environment. What is the cost? Difficult to say. That depends per training, but I think to make it fair for farmers who want to do it themselves, I think the cost should be between 100 and 200 shilling per training. What is the DES network? DES network is the digital extension service. So that is the network of young tech-savvy guys that we have in the field. And actually what we called before the yielder ambassadors and whatever extension guys, we will all want to bring them under the umbrella of the DES network. What specific crops value chains do you cover currently? Go to our training environment and you can see it. But it's we are very much working on the general knowledge that everyone must have. Then we do specific training now on fruits in coast. We have quite a big section on fodder and actually fodder production, grasses, etc. for dairy farmers. I have to think. We have the apiculture. We have a big training on soil management. Oh. And then I think, yeah, so more or less that. What valuable data do trainers harvest? Well, in the first place, we want to see if we can get a full data set of each farmer. That is name, phone number, area where he is, ward or county. Then we want to know gender, age, level of education. And that's also because through that we can decide whether somebody is trainable or not. Then what else? There is what they are farming, what kind of crops they're doing, and but that's kind of basic knowledge that we want to know, and from there we can ask more and more questions. Very interesting how women have been engaged. How do you, purity. How do you encourage women engagement? Because small farmers are not decision makers on land use. That is a challenge. Women are better trainees and better trainers in general than, again, the old landowner. So one of the trainings that we are developing at this moment is, and it's part of the entrepreneurship training, is a kind of gender-based training whereby younger people are being taught how to convince, what we always say, the father or the landowner to allow other knowledge to come in. So that is, I think, yeah, it's a big barren land. And I don't know yet how we are going to find partners who want to fund this, but I think it is very, very important indeed. And the funny thing is that young people, including young women, are actually better farmers. So if they have the possibility to show the landowner on how to do innovative farming, then the landowner will pretty soon be converted and will allow young people to have a bigger say. I think that's the questions
Thank you for covering the questions on the chat box. With this, I would like to ask if anyone would like to come off the mic and ask additional questions or just go deeper in any of the questions that have been answered by Alexander. Feel free to just come off the mic and ask your question. Casey, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Alexander. That was great. Really in-depth, and you moved quickly so we could ask questions. That's really appreciated. Two questions. One is sort of a follow-up on a note you just made, which was a fair price that the farmer would pay, around $1.50, $2, depending on the exchange rate at the time. Have you gotten any more information on direct willingness to pay and kind of optimizing that price point for farmers? And if no, or if yes, please elaborate. If no, would that be something that you're exploring and interested in exploring with partners? And then two, you showed some really interesting impact data from the service and the training. Have you been able to do any sort of connections with Dalberg to linking that to yield increases overall, income increases overall, other sort of medium-term outcome dimensions that are important to the farmers, on-farm resilience?
Great, thanks. Fair price for a training. We have thought about that, and we have asked our trainers in the field what they would think. So that is what it's based on. And it's also a little bit about the cost of training, so it's not completely made up, but we want to do tests to see if it is cheaper, are there more people doing it, and if we make it ridiculously expensive, if people are dropping, etc. But there's quite some trainings that we have available for free, and we don't really see a much higher uptake of those free trainings. So that is kind of confusing. And exploring, yes, very much interested in exploring it, but I really wouldn't know how to do that. But maybe you can advise there. Then the impact data. Yes, of course we want to know what our financial impact is in the field, but it's very difficult to claim that, because if somebody reads an article, if somebody meets a friend, if somebody has an agronomist passing by, then yeah, who owns the impact? So I wouldn't know how to do that completely fairly. So the only way we found out is that, yeah, doing this kind of surveys and trusting people that they give an honest answer would be the best way. But people are very reluctant to share financial data in general. So then it also makes it more complicated to see the financial impact if you don't have a good baseline. So that is where we're stuck a bit. But again, if you know a solution,
no, I mean, those are both really good points. I would never claim to know the solution per se, but I mean, we've had some interesting success in terms of, yeah, you can't really ask direct financial questions in a survey format to farmers. You won't get good answers, and really to anybody in any part of society. You don't tend to get quality responses with direct income or financial related questions in a survey format. So that's a really solid point to make, and just lay that out there clearly. And then the other side of it is sort of, would you need to then follow longitudinally a group of farmers as a statistically significant group to have that type of case study? It wouldn't necessarily need to be an RCT of any kind, but simply just following them over multiple years to kind of see how their adoption rates increase. But that costs money, as most any good evaluation does, even though most donors don't always want to pay for them. But that would be one way to explore opportunities. There's different donors that look at that specifically. I know USAID has their Development Innovation Fund, and a few others, and some other institutional donors fund those types of, I think the French government likes to fund evaluations as well, FID. So there's opportunities there on the institutional side, and then some philanthropic foundations, just exploring potentially funding for that type of evaluation. can be really valuable. And then seeing if one of your areas where you have the greatest scale, Kenya, potentially, running that type of evaluation over 2 to 3 years and then getting some results in that sense. It wouldn't be that you'd be able to make the specific claim that it was the only reason the yield improved, but at least you'd be able to make some strong inferences based on crop yields increasing and thus income increasing, modeled out probably over that period. That's one way we've looked at it and done it ourselves. But I'd be curious because I mean, I really do think the blended approach you've taken is the right approach. So being able to link that back to the outcomes we want to see for smallholder farmers, I think across all AMEA members is definitely worth exploring.
Yeah, well, definitely. We've been trying. Actually, I promised to do a few things from our failure campus. But one of the things is that we tried different kinds of trainings, and this blended learning training is by far the best. It's the highest impact, and it's the best fun. So the number of dropouts is very low, and I really like that very much. So people like to come together, sit together. There's a social element to it, and then the status of the trainer is going up, and you really can see those guys grow to become show men and show women. So that is really cool. Now going back to that impact analysis, yes, I think having a long-term following of a few farmers, so 2 different groups, one trained, one not trained, and then following them through the years and seeing what the impact is, that would be wonderful. But financially, we're not there yet. So it needs quite some. It takes quite some money. And indeed, USA and France, that's good partners to look into if they are interested in doing that or helping us. So thanks.
Great. Yeah. No, thanks for the answers. I was just, yeah. If there's more to talk about offline, I'd be happy to talk about that too.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else? Well, that's not up to me. Sorry, Felipe.
No. Feel free to ask. Yeah, we had one more question from Kennedy on the chat. I don't know if Kennedy, if you want to ask your question through the mic, or if you're happy for me to just read it out loud. Feel free to take off the mic if you want. All right, the question that Kennedy asked was from the picture displayed. From the picture displayed, are you able to assist local farmers to upgrade their breeds by introducing affordable AI services?
It's kind of funny that you interpret that picture like that. It's just a picture we made of a farmer who was in a jolly mood and showing a screen to his cow. No, the answer is no. We are not able to upgrade breeds, but we can connect everyone to the guys who can do that. And especially in the whole circus of upgrading breeds for dairy, there's so much going on at this moment. And there are so many companies that look into Kenya because the whole dairy business is not as profitable as it could be. And it has to do with the breeds as well, etc. And I don't know how they use AI services, but definitely everybody is looking at those possibilities. But Kennedy, if you want to, I can connect you to the breed improvers.
Great, thanks. Yes, Kennedy. So Alexander's email is here on the screen, so feel free to reach out to him anytime. We also have Collins with your hand raised. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, again, apologies. I came in a little bit late. I got held up in another meeting. Alexander, so this is probably in the ballpark of what we discussed when we met. When it comes to training farmers, sometimes it's quite difficult to convince them to move away from what they already know. And in my case, I've had to sort of mobilize resources so that you can do a bit of research and show them the data that what they've been doing, you can do it better. I don't know how you work with around that, whether you need to sort of roll in or embed some form of research, on-farm research into the trainings that you carry out?
Actually, it's two different points. So encouraging farmers to change, that is indeed super difficult. And that very much has to do with indeed the fact what I said before is that most of the risks of farming are with the farmers and not with the value chains. So one of the ways to get there is because we do this blended learning. So we have the trainers in the field. They are remaining in their communities. So if we train farmers through the trainers, and there's questions and there's follow-up requirements, then those trainers can look into that. They are reachable. They can be of help for the farmer. If it's exceeding the knowledge of that trainer, then they can come back to us and we can reach to, well, the institutions that do have the knowledge. And that's the same for the access to money. Actually, we are trying to develop a thing now where we are training farmers on financial literacy in order to be able to fast lane into a loan system. And by the time it is in place, then we are very happy to share that again with everyone. Now, we're not happy to, we will shout about that. So whether you want to hear it or not, you will know about this. So that is, well, we are in the growing process, and this indeed, the financial access to finance is a very important one. So Collins, I'm working on it.
All right.
Thank you, Alexander. Yes, we have time for a few final questions. Does anyone want to ask any questions still?
There was another question from Desta.
Oh,
My understanding is that the blended approach is more for the trainers and the training for farmers is more in person, where the trainers use the app. Yes and no. The whole system is based on blended learning training. So what we do is indeed we put the training in a learning environment, which is digital. Trainers can access that. And in that training, there is one column for trainers and one column for trainees. If you do the training without the trainer, you can still go online, you can still download it. And some indeed are for free, some there's a paywall, and well, we talked about that. And then it becomes very accessible. And of course, that is not blended learning training anymore if there's no trainer standing in front of you. So the whole system is built on making knowledge accessible, interesting. I'm not allowed to call it sexy anymore, but making it in such a way that farmers at all levels can understand it and can apply the learnings. I hope that answers your question. Desta is already saying thanks a lot, so probably it's clear.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So in that case, like, you know, if there is a column for trainer for trainees, some of the farmers, that means they can go online, they know they can learn about it. But for those who are getting the training through the trainers, like my question was like, you know, in addition to the in-person training from the trainers, is there something actually like as kind of, I don't know, probably recorded or whatever form, you know, blended element in it? So what you have said, like if the person is just going online, that's I think totally different. You know, the blended approach. If you are applying, I wanted to learn about it.
I don't really know if I understand it. So if you do the training with a trainer, you're in a kind of classroom setting, either in the field or inside or whatever, and then you get all the information. If you do it on your own, then you get the training online and you can see everything there.
Yeah, so if you get yourself, then it is actually digital training. That's only digital training.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if it is through trainer, from what you have said, it is in-person training, then again, no blended element in it. And so I was wondering, like, when you say we use blended approach, I really didn't get that element.
Well, the blended approach is using the trainer. So the blended part is that you, of course, there's always people in each group who have a smartphone who can do the training. So the blended part is that we train trainers digitally, they go do it in person. So that is the blend of techniques actually, or media, whatever you want to call it. I hope you get it now.
Yeah, that's clear for the trainers. Yes, then not for the trainers, for the trainers.
Yeah. Well, the trainers have a tablet, so from the tablet they can show all the videos and the games, and we do all this audio plays, so you get a kind of podcast with images. So those kind of things that the trainers can share that because they have a tablet.
Thanks.
All right.
Great. Yeah, we're close to closing the meeting now. Thank you everyone for being with us until now, and thank you, Alexander, for this great and insightful presentation. As mentioned in the chat, we are going to share the summary, the recording, and the slides of this presentation soon, probably next week, with all of you. And if you want to reach out to Alexander directly with more questions, you have his email there on the screen. So thank you, everyone. Have a nice end of the day. Until next time.
Super. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the stage.
Thank you very